25% overall. The main reasons cited were credit history and debt-to-income ratio. And John Hooker, the first of the ComEd 4 to be sentenced, is headed to prison for 18 months. The former utility exec was found guilty of bribing former Illinois House Speaker Michael Madigan. Hooker, the only black defendant, must report by October 14th. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
It's now time for Let's Elevate, the Arnie and Cary Show with Arnie Filko and Cary Grant.
Good evening, everyone. This is the Let's Elevate program, the Arnie and Cary Show. Arnie isn't here today. Arnie's still out of town for a few days. We have great guest host Walt Leger is here with me, and we're going to start off this evening with a little tiny bit about baseball. I happened to watch the All-Star Home Run Derby last night, and there's been a lot of complaints and a lot of things, but I enjoyed it. I mean, it was incredible. One guy hit the ball 513 feet out of the stadium, and I just want to say this aside. When I was visiting Baltimore one time, they had this beautiful sports center there with their football stadium and their baseball stadium, and they have a museum and everything. And I was just kind of wandering around, and the baseball stadium was open, which I just thought was incredible. The gate was open. So I just walked in, and I asked the guy inside, I said, one of the groundskeepers, I said, can I walk around? He said, sure, look around. I was fascinated because actually you
like
dealt with baseball, but being on the field and that beautiful fields and everything.
There's something special about being on the field.
They're like cathedrals. They really like cathedrals. They remind you of a real solemn place. So I walked to home plate, and you being a baseball guy, you know what I'm talking about. And I'm standing at home plate of a big time baseball park.
That's a beautiful stadium.
Yeah, it really is. That whole facility is fabulous. If you go to Baltimore, you should go see it. And I'm standing at home plate, and I said this last night to my wife. I'm standing at home plate, and I'm like, I know why people took steroids, because I couldn't get the ball close to out of the park, because it looks so far away when you're actually standing in a major league park. It's just incredible.
It's really
those guys are fabulous athletes.
Well, as you know, and what you're talking about, I used to be one of the owners of the New Orleans Zephyrs.
Yes,
and I was president of the Zephyrs for a while.
Yeah, and
we won the World Series, won 2 league championships.
Sure.
And I remember, and actually the first season they came to New Orleans, they were at UNO. And I ended up announcing the game because Gary Forster was supposed to announce. He was a legislator. He had to call me up. He said, hey, Walter, I heard when we were having drinks, you said you used to announce games. I said, yeah, Little League games. He said, well, I can't do it. You got to fill in for me. So I did.
Yeah.
And I ended up being the announcer for 2 years.
Wow.
For the stadium. So I went to 72 home games a year.
Wow.
And I'd never seen so much baseball in the whole life. But the thing that impressed me the most about those guys was the outfielders being able to throw
that far
as they could on a line.
Wow.
Not the hitting, not the,
but I get what
it's like these athletes from way out, 450 feet out, to hit home plate.
Wow. One of the guys was talking about on the sports radio today, was talking about the very thing you just mentioned. He said they have the home run derby, and that's one thing, but there's other skills that they would like to see people do, like maybe, have outfielders see how you could throw it on the line to, home plate or whatever, how fast a guy could get around the bases. So, some other skills that, get lost in when they're talking about the game.
Of course, pitching, we all know about pitching. And some people that aren't baseball people get bored when you have a pitcher's duel.
Right.
There's not a lot of hitting, a lot of action, but you watch a pitcher. Yeah. And if you watched any of the college World Series and the playoffs and stuff, you saw that there's a bunch of college pitchers that throw over 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Back years ago, not even that long ago, if you had a guy that could throw every now and then a pitch over 100 miles an hour, that was
really something.
A phenom. But now, if they're not throwing 100 miles an hour, they're almost not in the game. So, I mean, there's just, I guess, the physical growth, the skill levels are incredible.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about is what you said, and I'll do another aside, but when we see these celebrities or whatever throw out the first pitch and it doesn't even get to home plate, It's because it's far. It's and it's not as easy as people think.
Well, that's why a lot of them, what we used to do at Zephyr Field is we would let them actually go stand in front of the mound to get closer where they could get it home. Yeah. And I'll tell you a little story about that. What was the name of the guy when Mike Ditka was the coach of the Saints, the running back from Texas?
Ricky Williams.
Ricky Williams. He signed Ricky Williams. Well, Ricky Williams had been a minor league baseball player.
Oh, okay.
And so his first day at the Saints, we invited him to come over to the Zephyrs to throw out our first pitch.
Got it.
So we had a minor league baseball player and one of the top players in all of professional football come out there. He bounced it about 10 times. It was one of the worst first pitches I ever saw in my whole life.
That's
we were saying, you never know.
You really don't. The other thing I wanted to say is I've heard this as well. Unfortunately, I'm like most people who aren't really baseball fans all year long. I watched the World Series and all that kind of stuff like most people do. But they're talking about coming up, there may be a lockout in the next year or so with contracts and everything. And the contracts are so astronomical in baseball. I mean, they've just gotten to numbers you can't even imagine.
I mean, you think football players get paid a lot.
Yeah.
But the baseball players really get hundreds of millions of dollars.
Way more. So they're talking about a new collective bargaining agreement and, new negotiation. And I just wanted to get your views on that because that's a big aspect of that sport, not kind of getting this popularity because you got to play so many games to pay so much money and that type of thing.
Well, that's it. When you see a game on TV, you often see the stadium isn't full.
Right.
Because they're playing 70, games a year
at home.
They don't have to be full. At home. Yeah. And 162.
Yeah, a year.
I think it is. Total during the year.
Yeah.
So you don't have to fill the stadium every time to see it.
Sure.
And then the television and the and everything else. They bring in a lot of money. Right. We don't have Major League Baseball is not as popular here in the South because it's so hot.
Yeah, I agree.
Baseball grew from the north.
Right.
Interestingly, from New York
and all in a stadium that's open in the middle of the summer. It's not a good idea.
The first stadium that really Major League Stadium developed down here was the Astrodome in Houston.
Yeah,
which was a dome stadium.
Right, you're right.
The Superdome was built it was a better baseball construction, set up than football. It was designed to attract a major league team. Of course, we never had the population to justify a major league team, but it was again a dome stadium.
Sure,
Houston Stadium, and now a lot of the southern stadiums can open and close.
Right,
technology is there.
Yeah.
But they make a tremendous amount of money. Now, by the way, in connection with negotiation of contracts. It was right around the time of COVID. Minor League Baseball had a contract with Major League Baseball. There was a Minor League Baseball Association for like 98 years.
Yeah.
And they were renegotiating that contract. And we had actually set up, in context of Minor League Baseball, what we called the Minor League Baseball Caucus in Congress to support us. We have 160 minor league teams, 160 congressional districts.
There you go.
The leaders of the congressional caucus were Steve Scalise and Cedric Richmond.
There you go.
And they were doing real well in the negotiations. Then COVID hit.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the major leagues could play because of the TV.
Right.
But the minor leagues had to shut
because
down.
they don't have the same kind of contractual situation.
Well, you don't have TV contracts.
Right.
You got to put butts in the seats.
Right.
Is the way we used to say it. You got to sell tickets.
And the nature of the whole COVID pandemic was nobody can be there.
You couldn't go in the seats.
Yeah, you're right.
In fact, the minor league season's totally shut down.
Yeah.
It totally screwed up the negotiations.
Yeah.
And so it's a whole different situation now of the major leagues are basically running and owning the minor league teams, basically, whereas the minor league teams used to be like us, independently owned with contracts for major league teams. But the minor league players, you can start in the minor leagues making $20,000-$30,000 a year. Suddenly you go up to the majors.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the money.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a major league minimum that is just spectacular. If you go up for a few days, you make a few dollars.
Yeah.
And then these stars like Ohtani and the others,
they make an incredible.
I mean, it's hard to even imagine you do it for playing what I say a kid's game.
Yeah. We have a caller. Let me get to the call. Hello, Mr. Elmore.
Yes, sir. How you doing today?
Hey, how you doing there?
Pretty good, man. Enjoy what you're discussing about baseball, man, because I love baseball. But I was wondering if I could change. I was wondering if you didn't mind if I could change the topic.
No, go ahead.
the Epstein situation.
Yeah, we're
that's a
laughing
lot
because
like
we were just
baseball.
talking about that. Yeah.
No, I'm laughing, but it's not funny. Please forgive me. No, you know what's so strange about it, about politics, is that Trump, his attorney general, and basically they were saying about what they knew and what they were going to disclose. And
Yes.
they try to suggest that Biden was hiding something, and they were trying to suggest that Biden, and maybe, you know, what I learned about secrecy, being in military, had a top secret clearance.
Mm-hmm.
What I was told is, you know, son, what you don't need to know, thank God you don't know. And the reason why I said that, because now they you know, you're jumping on a horse that you can't jump on, and now you're realizing that the people that maybe might be closer than you think,
Yes.
even they want that to be out. So sometimes you gotta leave things alone. Now
Yeah.
it's embarrassing to them because you're trying to suggest that this man they want, and maybe, you know, sometimes it's I'm American citizen, American Vietnam vet, and you know I'm a very mature man. I think that sometimes maybe I don't need to know, because I read this book, a very good book what Obama wrote, and he laughed about it after he said it. He said, "Man," he said, "when I realized the prestige and the power of becoming the president of the free world, and realize what you need to know," he said to himself, "Man, I wish I didn't know."
Yeah. Yes.
True.
Yes. No, the
So
issue the issue there is, you know, and especially every time they try and bring up, you know, Biden should have done it. Well, you're in there now, so what are you going to do? Don't worry about if Biden did it or didn't do it.
That's right.
It's on you now. And, you know, that's not a real good argument saying the other guy didn't do it, so I'm not going to do it. So you are the one who started this in your campaign.
And you know what? I think
releasing-
we had to be civil. Look, I think as Americans, whether we are Democrat or Republican, I love y'all because you're both civil minded.
Yeah.
Regardless of your political viewpoints or your political understanding, whether you're Democrat or Republican. One thing I love about both of you, you're very open minded young men, and you both think. Y'all trying to think rational, and me myself, being a citizen, I want to think rational too.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes you can leave stuff alone. I mean, I don't think it's right for me to know something's embarrassing about it. Listen, you never want that for embarrassing about that. Don't do it now. You know.
Yeah, and the other problem is, you know, all the other problems they're creating and all other things that are going on in the world, in this country, and in our hometown. We all know that list of names of people who did something wrong is not going to really help move the needle forward on that.
No, that.
Oh man, and look, yeah, you know what? I appreciate you saying that what's going on in our country and the world today. I had more better things. Not that I'm disrespecting any of those young men that got raped or anything, because what I said, it was terrible, the things that happened. I'm not diminishing that, young fellows, but I just think sometimes we got to look at priorities. You know.
Yes.
Well,
thank you.
You know, it's interesting because Cary and I were kind of talking about this and kind of almost laughing about it beforehand, because the Epstein situation is kind of ironic. But fundamentally, the real thing is this: Epstein was investigated for criminality, for crimes. And if you assume that our prosecutors and police and FBI are doing the right job, they do an investigation.
Right.
They investigate some people. They develop information on other people than the person they're looking at Epstein. And then they have their own internal obligations of confidentiality and the desire that, man, this doesn't look right for this person, but that doesn't mean, and so we just don't have
want to bring it up,
of embarrassing people and throwing it out there. Our job is to prosecute criminally. Well, some people in the world believe that some conspiracy theorists believe that those prosecutors were hiding things to protect people. Maybe they were, but maybe they were just doing the right job.
Yeah.
And so, but nonetheless, they're holding information that's, if they can't put a case together, they don't want to ruin somebody's life. On the other hand, maybe they're being paid off and protecting another one. But the conspiracy people said, aha, they're really protecting people.
Yes.
Now it turns out their supporters have the power to release all the stuff.
Right.
And that's what we find, I find just kind of ironic. They're going crazy about claiming that Biden and the other administration and the Democrats were so guilty and so sinful, and all they were hiding this stuff. Now they got it,
right? So
and they won't.
So do whatever you're going to do. Thank you, Mr. Elmore, for
Well,
calling.
this old saying, you wish for something, you keep on wishing for something when you realize that you wish you didn't wish for it because you ain't gonna like it.
That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Elmore,
Well,
for
man,
calling.
look, man, it's a
thanks
pleasure
for
to listen to
calling.
both of y'all.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you, buddy. Thanks, partner.
Okay, we have another caller on the line. Hello, Brother Corey.
How y'all doing today?
All right.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, let's go back to baseball. Salute to, yeah, for real, right?
Sure.
Politics. You know what they say about politics? There's poly mean many and ticks mean the other stuff. But anyway, so let's go back to baseball. Salute to Loyola, the Wolfpack, for winning the NAIA.
Yes.
Salute to them, and I have a couple of questions for y'all. Please, answer it very straightforward and honestly, okay? One is, why we don't have a major baseball team here, okay? Now, they spoke about building a stadium, a racetrack in New Orleans East. They're doing a lot of stuff like that. I don't know, y'all kind of power brokers, so y'all should know what's going on, right? So if y'all can, find out why is that, and let us know, and how can we go ahead on? Do we need to, the city need to fill out a petition form and sign off all those people who want a Major League Baseball team and see if we can fill out the stadium before they come here? We can do that too, because we definitely need a major baseball team here. And one more thing, and you should be used to the number 72. So peace and love to y'all, man. I'll talk to y'all later. Thank y'all for speaking these words, man.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, let me address that baseball issue, because that's something we've talked about since basically I was a child. Again, since the Superdome was being built, it was built to accommodate football and baseball, and eventually accommodated NBA basketball as well. And the idea was to hopefully attract a major league team. Some people thought we didn't have enough of a population to support even a football team. But Senator Russell Long and our congressional delegation kind of twisted the NFL to say, we want a team or we're going to have some tax issues, for you owners. But what happens is baseball, again, 160 some odd games a year, baseball requires a population base bigger than the other two sports to support it financially.
Right.
We just don't have that population base. We at one time we were about the size of Houston, but Houston kept growing. We did not. So I don't foresee that we will ever have a shot at a major league team.
Yeah.
Now, we did get a AAA team, the quality of which was pretty close to Major League Baseball, and we gave it a lot of support for a long time. And that was some good baseball. We have an outside shot, which we can talk about at some point, about where minor league baseball stands in getting baseball back here. But unfortunately, I think you're never going to see a major league team here in New Orleans.
Right.
Well, since we're speaking about major league teams,
yes, sir.
Are there any developments on us getting the Major League Hockey team? Because I've heard it talked about, but I haven't heard anything about it since.
I hadn't heard anything. But again, I'm not sure. I think we looked at, by the way, I was involved in the Chamber of Commerce back in the day when Tom Benson was renegotiating his lease with the state of Louisiana of the Superdome, and when he was threatening to go to San Antonio and otherwise, and we did a study of the cities, the areas, and we just don't have. We barely have the population to support two major league teams, two big league teams, basketball and football. Football is the easiest one. You need the least population because you have the least games. But once the Hornets came / Pelicans, it really put it put a lot of stress on the AAA baseball team in terms of the advertising dollars and attendance. But it also put some stress on the Saints. I just personally don't see, I don't see a major league hockey team headed this way in the near future.
Right.
But it's possible. I still think all of that, increase more sports, spending entertainment dollars, depends on, we got to start growing.
Yeah. We're going to take a short break. We have a caller, and we'll get back to you as soon as we come back on the line.
Get in on the conversation at 504-5 582-9422.
That's right. It's party time each and every Sunday night at 7 p.m. on WBOK. It's the Throwback Throwdown with DJ Wick as he brings you the best in old school from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the early 2Ks. Plus, the party goes to another level at 9 p.m. with the Throwback Throwdown Party Mix to round out the night. It's the Throwback Throwdown Sunday nights at 7 p.m. on WBOK and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
On last week's From the Press Box to Press Row with Donald Ware.
Is it, in fact, in the Eastern Conference wide open? To me, it's the Knicks. The Cavaliers had the best record in the Eastern Conference last year. Back-to-back seasons with the Cavaliers exiting in the second round. A lot of people will say, well, the Cavaliers faced the Pacers. Still, you figured that the Cavaliers were going to win that series. They had as good a starting five as you had in the league. You lost in the second round, back-to-back seasons, I might add.
From the Press Box to Press Row is one of the hottest sports talk shows in the country. Join Donald each week as he takes you on a journey through the world of HBCU sports and pro sports and interviews with top sports and entertainment figures. That's From the Press Box to Press Row each week on your favorite station.
Box to Row, Saturdays at 2 p.m. on WBOK and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com. What New Orleans is talking
On
about.
the next edition of The Way Forward, the Advancing Southeast Louisiana series resumes with a conversation with Dr. Monique Guillory, the president of Dillard University. Plus, I'll share what's good, the Go Forward message, and tell you what you need to know about good stuff in the community. Join me Saturday at 3 p.m. It's The Way Forward with Eddie Francis here on 1230 a.m. or streaming live at WBOK1230.com and the Play Ode app. On WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about.
Norman Robinson is back.
Can you hear me now?
And he's taking no prisoners.
Can you hear me now?
Each weekday, Norman Robinson brings you commentary with Off the Top.
The incident was shocking, disturbing, disgusting, disappointing, and sad.
Each weekday, Off the Top with Norman Robinson is heard exclusively right here.
It's Off the Top with Norman Robinson on WBOK 1230 AM.
WBOK. Online at WBOK1230.com. The Arnie and Cary Show with Arnie Philco and Cary Grant.
We are back. I'm going to get to our caller, Don. Are you on the line still?
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, gentlemen.
Hey, sorry
Don.
about the wait, man.
Yeah, and I want to talk about balls as well.
Okay.
Kahunas. You know, Mackenzie Scott, she's one of the wealthiest women in the world. Jeff Bezos' ex-wife. And Jeff Bezos has increased his wealth since his divorce.
Absolutely.
Bill Gates, Melinda Gates, French Gates.
Right.
She's going to be one of the wealthiest women in the world.
Yeah.
Bill Gates doing pretty well since his divorce.
Yeah.
This is about y'all former LSU coach, Ed Orgeron, fighting his ex-wife for her community property.
Yeah.
And he crying about the money. He's going to do pretty well. Like, it's a study that says that most men do better after their divorce financially. And so, but from his ex-wife and the mother of his children and even grandchildren and his legacy, he should be ashamed of himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's a community property state, the court has decided, what is he crying about? He met his second wife. It says that he met her in the mid-'90s.
Yeah.
How many coaching positions did Ed Orgeron have since the mid-'90s before he hit the gravy train, become the LSU head coach and win the national championship? How all across the country did he drag his family and his wife had to maintain the house? Dude.
Well, look, I'll tell you this, Don, from being a divorced man, and I know my partner can speak to this too. The state laws are pretty tight on what you owe and what you have to do. I don't know why they would waiver for Ed Orgeron. I don't care how much money it is. We know lots of rich people who have been divorced and poor people, and it's always the same. It's the code, it's the law, and basically you pay what they tell you to pay, and you just shut up.
However, that's why the Lord created lawyers, because the law is very clear. It's a 50-50 split, community property.
Yeah.
But then the issue comes, and I haven't followed it real closely, but what Orgeron is arguing that some of his contract was to be paid for future performance, not for past performance. So he claims that that's for performance. That,
well, he didn't perform.
That's payment for after he was his
he
divorce.
didn't perform. He got a payout, and that payout was in a certain year. So
I mean,
I think
that's the argument he's made. But
yeah,
yes,
I get
you're
what
right.
you said.
Well, the thing about it is, I'm gonna close on this and listen to the rest of your show. Love your show.
Sure, man.
It's not a 50-50 split in this sense. If the children are gone with the mother, and you have, let's say you have 4 children, and she got this divide 50% with 5 people, he got 50% for himself and his new boo.
well,
that's a way of looking at it.
50% is a bargain for him.
Yeah.
Well, I don't do
any person, any man of any kind of gumption or balls to understand that in the world, the majority of women at the age of 65 and older live in poverty.
That's true.
Abject poverty.
Yeah.
We got to really address this issue. And I don't want these men to think that violence is the answer either.
Yeah.
I mean, look, in all fairness, I don't do divorce work, so I'm not an expert on this stuff. But there are ways with the 50-50 rule is basically a split of your assets, of the things you own. And but there are provisions for when children are allocated, if the wife takes the child for child support and otherwise, of a sharing of the cost of raising the children. So the husband that gets away without having to pay for the children doesn't necessarily totally get away.
Does college tuition go into that? Because the way student loan debt approaching $2 trillion, you can't count on scholarships. You can't count on these large endowments anymore if the administration get through and start taxing it. So you're gonna have to get you a discount when you're paying at the till for these children to have a proper education.
There's lots of things, and I would say this: there's lots of things that the court does to protect wives and children, and to give them a fair share. And I do think that because this was a big settlement for him, I think that was what the court was saying was this is a lot of money, and simply give half of it because it's half. I mean that's what.
And you got that money because
she was with him on his way up.
Yeah,
she was with him on his way up.
Absolutely. Look. The pension systems make sure that you give a share for the years you're married. There's all types of things like that. So yes.
Oh, I didn't know all that. Wow.
Yeah, I mean,
all right, gentlemen, thank you for your comments.
Okay, thank you for calling. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, that obviously is a very hot button issue. But
it is an interesting issue, and I mean, I guess arguably the wife would say you got paid all that money for what you did while we were married.
Yes.
Not for what you might do in the future. And then there's an argument on the other side, and they put on evidence, and theoretically, if the court does the right thing, it works out the right way.
But what I find, Walt, and I just have to say this, I mean, I think, and having been through it, you understand where I'm coming from. I do think that the court system and the laws are set up in a way that they do help out where they should in this instance. I mean, I think that there's a lot of things we can say might be unfair, might be whatever, but it's like I said, pension plans, it's like, you were together for 14 years, you get a share. I think those things are fair, and I think that's the way it should be.
I think for the most part, it's designed to be fair.
Yeah.
And as long as both parties, in most cases, by the way, the things are worked out. They don't fight in court. Yes. They don't yell and scream.
You really
it's
should.
not like a movie.
You really should.
Because it should be arithmetic.
Yeah.
It should be mathematically computed, and it should be worked out. And generally, you hope that the judges apply, not just the law, but equity, fairness, and justice when they're litigating.
And this is a bad segue, but it's a segue into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which is the economics of our country and the economics of what's going on with these tariffs and various other things. What we basically have seen over the last 24 hours, literally, is the unemployment numbers are up. Yes. We've seen that inflation is up, definitely up. Not we think it's going to be up. The last numbers are bad and trending in the wrong position. And I want to say one other thing about inflation. inflation before was driven by housing prices and some other things. Now it's driven by goods and services, which is a really bad sign because housing prices are starting to taper off. Still bad, but it's not as much of a driver in this. The driver in this is now self-inflicted wounds.
Well, and to some degree, the inflation really started bumping up during COVID.
Yeah,
and when the government started pumping money into the economy in order to offset the fact that people weren't working and businesses were shut down, you suddenly had a lot of money in the economy, and then interest rates were up, so you got a lot of money, and that's what causes inflation.
Yeah,
demand and supply issues, push prices up.
Right.
And then inflation had been steadily coming down. But by the way, the whole world was experiencing inflation during
because
the COVID era, because of the disease, and some other things too, and spending things. But today, that's what's kind of interesting. Inflation has been steadily coming down, but suddenly, I would submit to you that I think what we're starting to feel is the beginning of the impact of tariffs.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. Yes, absolutely.
And you and I have talked about that. So, but it's just the beginning.
Yeah,
that's why inflation it hadn't popped in that hard. But it's almost, it would seem to me almost impossible that we won't have inflation once the tariffs, as they're proposed, kick in.
Go into effect,
because that's the whole idea. The tariffs increase the cost of things.
So what we're saying, Walt, and this is what I'm really driving at. What people have been watching is the stock market going through a yo-yo effect.
Yes.
Lots of people don't participate in the stock market. They may participate unknowingly because of their pension plans or whatever. But a lot of people are not investors. So that's not, they kind of look at it and they say, well, it's something, but they don't know what it really means. This is now the part that's going to affect the individual. This is not the stock market going up and down.
Things.
This is the cost of things. And I want to talk about one particular thing because it relates to some stuff in Louisiana. You talked about coffee the other day.
Yep.
Now there's this tariff on tomatoes, of all things, fruits and vegetables that particularly come from Mexico. 17% tariff. Now Mexico basically does 70% of our tomatoes that we use in the country out of 100%. The other 30% comes from America.
That's right.
From California, from Louisiana.
That's
Creole
right.
tomatoes.
Creole tomatoes.
We all know that. But the idea of it is to say what you kind of said before should be what a tariff is about, but this is not what this tariff is about. It should be to increase the use of the local product.
That's right.
But we don't produce enough of the local product to cover 30% of us, all these states and everything, to produce 100% of the fruit. So it's not going to make that up. You're going to pay the 17% extra.
Well, I don't know if you and I have talked about this privately, or if we talked about it on the air, but I keep using the example of, we're talking about a trade deficit and we're trying to use tariffs to deal with the trade deficit.
Yeah.
First of all, by the way, tariffs have a really interesting historic background. They've been going on for a while.
Yes.
They were initially designed to be a way of raising revenue for the government.
Exactly.
And when we didn't have income taxes,
back
and we
when
didn't
the
have
government wasn't that big either.
And even after the Revolutionary War was won, states started putting tariffs on products from other states.
Right.
One of the things that encouraged the Constitutional Convention and getting rid of the Articles of Incorporation. So it was a way of raising money then.
Yeah.
It's become, this administration has said it's a way of punishing people because they're doing better
than we are
somehow in international trade than we are. But you're right. The tomatoes is another example of what I call the coffee phenomenon.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can put a tariff on coffee, but if the idea, as the administration says, is to punish the foreign country to make it more expensive there, so we can now start producing here in the United States. We don't produce coffee.
Right.
We're like you said, we're not going to produce that many
not
tomatoes.
Not to make up our 100%.
I saw a senator, I don't know what committee it was in Senate. I just happened to stop and watch for a moment, and she was questioning the Secretary of Commerce about bananas.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she was holding a banana in her hand. She says, 99% of the bananas come from, outside the United States. grow bananas here, but you're going to put a tariff on those countries for those bananas. All that's going to do is make bananas more expensive.
Yes.
It's not going to encourage us to grow bananas.
And you as a port person, you've talked about this before. You know, when we talk about real goods and things like that that come through our port because they come from Central America.
Absolutely.
Or come through Houston or wherever. We have our port issues on top of this. But those are things that come here. That means they have to pay more for them to come here.
So let's remind people how tariffs work.
Sure.
We buy some coffee from Honduras. Somebody, there's a shipper that says a coffee roasting company says, I'm going to buy some coffee beans from Honduras. We're going to ship them up to the port of New Orleans. We're going to offload it, and then we're going to send it out where we're going to roast it and package it and sell it. So we buy it for $100 from Honduras, and somehow we stick a tariff on it. Well, now it's going to be more expensive.
Right.
But it's not going to, it's just going to cost you and I more to buy coffee and drink coffee.
Right.
It might produce a little revenue, but it's not going to encourage anybody in the United States to grow coffee beans.
Right.
Because we virtually don't, except in Hawaii and little bitty things in the Everglades and
one thing
California.
that's very practical, and just to hit on what you just said, there are goods and things that we use as consumers in the country. There's nothing wrong with consuming stuff, but there are things that we practically can't make here. It's not about making steel in a steel plant, but bananas and growing them in bulk like that doesn't happen here. I notice this at the store all the time. I say this all the time. The best roses come from Ecuador. You know, I mean, they grow them by the bushels, and they send them. That's going to cost a lot more to
it's
even
just going to
have
cost
that.
more.
It's going to cost more.
I use the example. I talked to two women have cut my hair since I was in law school about 100 years ago. And I've been paying whatever, $30, $35 every time I get a haircut once a month. And so I've been paying $30 a month for years and years and years. And I have a trade deficit then with my barber.
Right.
And so the solution the administration would have to solve that trade deficit is, because my barber's they're not going to buy my legal services.
No.
I hope not.
Right.
They'll be in trouble if they need my legal services.
Right.
But so to solve the trade deficit, you make me pay $45?
Pay more for the same haircut.
How does that possibly make any sense?
Right. No, you're right. I mean, and people need to really start paying attention to this because it's starting to really be a thing you're going to see in your pocketbook now. You're going to, those inflation numbers, those things we're talking about are in effect now. This is happening, and all of that back and forth with other numbers, and I'm going to put things on Russia or whatever. Don't worry about that. The ones that are affecting you are in effect now. We have a call. Let me get that. Hello.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes.
Cool. Well, let me say you say your barber, that's a wise investment. I call that an investment.
Yeah.
Since you're successful, I think, whoever touched your head doing a good job. You're doing a good job. Let them touch your head. But anyway,
she does a really good job, and she's worth every penny.
Hey, I already know. Look here, we rank number one in trade balance rank out of 50 states. We rank number one trade balance, and for the import rank, we rank 24th.
That's true. Mm-hmm.
All right, so and we rank number 4 compared to the export rank number 4.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at and go list up all the cities and the states, and you see what's going on, you see that we always think we in the plus, whatever you want to call it. So the trade deficit, or what you want to call it, the inflation rate, stuff like that. We had the economical power to do what we need to do in Louisiana. So I think we should stay where we need to stay because we supply a lot of stuff to everybody, for all these countries. I could list the country. So again, somebody say have balls. I said let's our people know that. Hey, let's know that Louisiana have a stake in what needs to be going on in this country.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And so if we do that, and I guarantee you, we don't have to settle for those things or worry about those tariffs. Our people can really, get all the, those delicious tasting Creole tomatoes
Yes.
that they roll. You know what I'm saying? So we had the power, y'all. So that's all I want to say to you. So hey, keep on. I'll keep on listening because, like I said again, I love talking to people who got some money in their pockets. You know, can't go
Yes,
wrong with that.
Okay.
Talk to you later, man.
Thank
all
you,
right.
man. All right. Yeah, the issues here though are very, very clear that these are things that are almost whims and bad economics. You mentioned this the other day. This is less than economics 101 classes. I mean, this is just bad policy that's gonna really hurt people. And at the same time, while you're cutting other things and creating more burden on people financially, now you're making the things that they buy that they want even more costly.
Well, I have to admit, I was following this pretty closely initially because the economics is interesting to me.
Mhm.
But I have to admit now, it's hard to follow now.
Absolutely.
At least there was
very haphazard.
a plan. Yeah, and it seems that the administration is deciding what degree of a tariff to put on because they're mad at somebody or the president was treated disrespectfully.
Yeah, I mean, they were talking about the stuff with Russia, which is never going to stop the Ukraine thing, no matter what he does. And they were saying put 200% tariffs on Russia. It's like, what the? I mean, that's not even a number. That's just insane.
The problem with that is because of the sanctions that were imposed by Biden, we're not getting anything.
We're not
there is no
with
trade.
Right.
So you can put a gazillion percent on
right.
trade with Russia. But interestingly, this president did not, when he came out with his tariffs initially, put a single percent of a tariff on Russia or North Korea.
Right.
Now he's talking about putting 100%, 200% tariff on Russia if they don't come to the table.
Yeah.
But if we're not importing, it doesn't even punish them.
Exactly.
It's just kind of
And one of Russia's major exports is oil, and they don't export oil to us anyway. So the countries they export. And the thing about this, well, and I just want to say how the global picture works, because globalism is a real thing. But what happens is if a country doesn't want to deal with America because of this, there's other countries that they can deal with. China's a big dog. Russia's a big dog. There's lots of countries. There's lots of developing nations in Africa and everywhere who will say, "Oh, you don't want to sell those goods to them, or what? You don't want to ship them? Ship them to us." Well, and they'll pay for them.
5 years ago, in the administration of this president, for the first time, they put a tariff on Chinese goods, a tariff on plant, and China decided China was buying most of our excess soybeans. Soybeans that were coming down the Mississippi River that we were doing a lot of trade with, and China said, "Oh, okay, we just won't buy American soybeans anymore." So they started buying them from Brazil, and other countries that aren't imposing a tariff, and where it might be a little bit more expensive without a tariff, but now with the tariff, we've priced them out of the market. So what happens upstream? Those farmers who are growing the soybeans, because of the protective tariffs we put on other things, are not losing their customers. And the soybeans are dying. I mean, and they're just not. They've got no market to get to. I hate to get into the politics of it, but USAID. We were shipping our excess produce to poor foreign countries. We're not doing that now.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
WBOK, online at WBOK1230.com.
Hey, this is Steve Poston. Be sure to listen to WBOK 1230 AM every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. and Sunday evening at 5 p.m., bringing you the best Southern Soul barroom music with the Southern Soul Weekend Party Mix, hosted by me, of course. I'll be playing your favorite Southern Soul music by artists from all over the South, right here on WBOK 1230 AM or online at WBOK1230.com. The station you listen to longer. Listen to longer. Listen to longer.
Celebration time is here for the Melody Cloud 60-year anniversary in concert style. Sunday, August the 3rd, 3 p.m. at the St. John Educational Building, 2538 Jackson Avenue, New Orleans. Features the legendary Rocks of Harmony, the voices of distinctions of Baton Rouge, the best of singers from Slidell, Jermaine Hawkins and the Harvey Spirituals, Bishop Joseph Carter and the Board, the unstoppable gospel creator. That's not all from Little Rock, Arkansas, the Racer Brothers. You don't want to miss this big gospel concert celebrating the Melody Cloud 60-year anniversary. Sunday, August 3 p.m., 2538 Jackson Avenue. Tickets $25 at the door. Advance tickets, Jackson Quality, 751 North Claiborne Avenue. Don't miss it. God bless you, and we'll see you there.
Somebody singing oh, somebody.
New Orleans, are you ready for a voice that says what you're thinking? Who that, you might ask? Arrington Gavin. That's right, I'm your guy, host of the Arrington Gavin Show, giving you so much filled with bold opinions, real conversations, and zero sugarcoating. We're going to be diving into the issues that matter, politics, pop culture, and all the above, unfiltered and unafraid. Catch the Arrington Gavin Show weeknights from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., Monday through Fridays, right here on WBOK, what New Orleans is talking about.
WBOK. Listen now on WBOK1230.com.
The Arnie and Cary Show with Arnie Philco and Cary Grant.
And we are back. This is our last segment. We're going to finish up this talk about the tariff and import thing for a little bit. And you were mentioning some things about how this has gone so off kilter. It was a bad program when this first came out economically a couple of months ago, and the idea of it was bad, but it's just kind of just
well, the president
control.
Told us finally at some point. He said he had this formula that he developed, right?
Yeah.
And it was a really odd formula,
right?
And I looked at it and studied it very closely, and I had actually taken a course in international economics, a good 100 years ago, when they were exchanging rocks, instead of coins for each other. But so I was very fascinated by it, and as it turned out, there wasn't an economist that said that this formula made any sense.
Yeah.
And even the very conservative Republican economists were using words like dumb, ridiculous, crazy.
Right.
And then one of the figures in the formula was simply wrong. The arithmetic was absolutely wrong.
Right.
So even the when the president showed that big chart, it was wrong.
Yeah.
Even the arithmetic was wrong.
Yeah.
And that's just inexcusable. But now at least, and then they said, well, we're going to give them 90 days to renegotiate. Right. We're going to make 90 deals in 90 days. And I can't tell you if there's been a single deal
There's
made.
no deals.
Right?
There's literally no deals. And that's not, like we say sometimes, that's not politics. That's not being on the other side of the coin. There is no deal. There's no deal, really. The things that have been signed were nothing. The thing with Japan, the thing with the European Union, those don't really exist. That's not really a deal.
Yeah. I mean, and the Chinese have basically kind of run circles around us now.
Yes.
But so now we have an extension to August 1st, but we still don't know what's happening and what they're doing. But what we do know is there are businessmen and women, actual business people who are counting on, they're ordering parts for their products that they have, but the parts are coming from like China. From overseas or Vietnam or somewhere else. And they are trying to project when the parts are getting here in 4 months, what's the cost going to be? Because I'm going to have to pay that cost in 4 months. I will pay the and let's remember how the tariff works. Product comes in, it goes through customs, and it costs the guy that's buying it here or the woman buying it here pays $100, but now it's $20 more to pay a tariff.
Right.
So who pays that? The U.S. company here pays the $20, not the Chinese shipper.
And what you're doing now is you're disrupting the supply chain, which causes supply losses, and then things that won't be on the shelf, and then there's more problems.
So how do you calculate what your cost of business are?
Right.
To some degree, and you hit another nail on the head earlier. You were talking about the inflation starting to go up.
Yeah.
So you know that ordinarily inflation is going to climb, but is that inflation going to be really that much more because of the increased cost of the tariffs, and what will that spiral be?
Right.
But there are business people that are talking about they're literally going to go out of business.
Yeah,
because they cannot project.
No,
they
right.
can't take the risk of ordering parts, not knowing what they're going to have to pay for it.
I saw a report recently of a small business person who fashions, for lack of a better term, he fashions parts of metal parts from raw metals for, high-tech machinery and that type of thing. He's a small company, 50, 100 employees, and he makes these intricate parts that go to other people. It's not he's making the big thing, but he's saying exactly what you said. In a few months, because he can't order, because he doesn't know if steel's going to be $80 million or whatever, he can't afford to order at
and
the
take
rate
the
it's
risk
going to now. So he's very worried about, will I even be able to do business? And then will I have the raw materials to do business?
Well, I started to tell you the story of the senator who was holding up the banana, the senator talking to the Secretary of Commerce, and he was just so boldly, and he said, well, you know why we're putting tariffs on bananas? It's like, because we want people to make products here in the United States, to make American products. And she said, you don't make bananas.
Right.
You grow bananas.
And
you don't put them together.
You have to grow trees that are mature, that take years to grow and have thousands of trees.
I'm wondering, what is this guy? What's going through this guy's head?
You're right.
Yes, you put tariffs because you want to encourage business to make a banana.
Right.
Where are they going to make the bananas? And then do we really have, suppose we do start building these manufacturing plants that are like the ones that are in China now.
Sure.
Who's going to work in the manufacturing plants?
There's that part too.
Do we have sufficient workers?
And how long does it take to build? One guy was saying even if you did a refurbished steel mill, that it would take 5 years to refurbish it.
5 years to refurbish
one that's standing right now, not being used.
And
so
we talked last time, I think, about copper a little bit.
Yes, we did.
They were talking about, we import most of our copper, but we do have copper smelters, I think they call it, smelting.
Sure.
But if we started using all of our own smelting, and we don't use smelting, copper that's already been smelted from other countries, we have to build a smelting plant. And it could take 10 to 15 years with permitting and everything else to build, these plants. So are we supposed to suffer? We're supposed to, bear the pain,
burden. And some people can't bear the burden for 5 years. I mean, most of us can't. The other thing, but what seems to really be being affected, I'm seeing more and more stories and reading more and more things about foodstuffs. There was a guy talking about cherries and cherry industry, which you wouldn't think, that's suffering from these same type of tariff
and
things.
Cherries come from out of the country too, Mexico, I guess.
And the people who grow them here are worried about the fact that no workers. There's all of these factors, and what we're trying to say is when you go to the store and you're worried about the prices, and I've noticed that you have to, if you walked in the grocery store, things are creeping up, and they're not creeping up because they have to creep up. Like you and I said, when we were dealing with COVID, which was the worst international problem we've had recently, it wasn't like Katrina or anything like that. It was a big, big global thing. You could understand the suffering and everything. We could see we were recovering from that. We were coming back from that. The whole world was coming back from that. And now we're self-imposing. We're being self-imposed by people who are running wild, in my mind. These things that are hurting people at the cash register. And I mean, that's a real problem.
The worst part is, I think, in just what you're talking about, there doesn't seem to be a plan.
No,
it's all scattershot.
Yeah,
it's all giving little speeches and making and then the other thing is, I always understood and thought, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm wrong because they did it differently. Is that you don't impose tariffs on countries, you impose them on products, specific products.
Right.
You may want to put a tariff on iron ore that's created in Honduras, because you want to encourage U.S. Or other countries that produce iron, but you don't put it on coffee also. So you don't put it across the board just because you want it on one product.
Yeah.
I mean, you target things.
Yeah.
You have a specific strategy.
For a reason. And with a game plan about what that means. And none of this is going to do the other thing of raising all these funds to cover the $7 trillion budget we have. It's not going to ever do that. as you said, back in history when tariffs funded the federal government, it's because the federal government did mostly nothing and was a very small entity. It didn't need all of these funds to fund a bunch of postmaster generals around the country and that type of thing.
No, that's right.
The scope of the federal government, it just the defense budget alone could never be covered by tariffs.
Not even close.
So we're done for tonight, and we're going to come back tomorrow and talk about some things like this, but this subject just won't go away. We had a great time tonight. We'll see you all tomorrow.